In today's brief video, I'm going to be reacting to a Jacob effing Jones video titled Why the First Cigarette of the Day is the Best Cigarette of the Day. And I'm going to make the counter argument as an ex-nicotine addict as to why the first cigarette of the day is actually the worst cigarette of the day. And this video applies to you if you vape, if you chew tobacco, if you smoke cigarettes, if you're addicted to any nicotine product, this video is going to apply to you. Now, as a quick disclaimer, I love Jacob Jones. I love this guy's YouTube channel. He's working super hard on here. So this is nothing more than my opinion versus his opinion and a friendly discussion surrounding the topic. Without further ado, let's jump right into it.
So today I'm going to be smoking a little bit of a Chesterfield red cigarette, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about why the first cigarette of the day is the best cigarette of the day. Now, this is going to be the first cigarette of the day. I got to be completely honest with y'all. I have not smoked today. It's currently like 1 o'clock, and I haven't smoked a single one. So I'm going to go ahead and get this lit up, I just said that. I'm going to go ahead and just get this lit up.
What just happened there? What? He just had a short circuit on his brain there. That's all right.
Just said that 3 times. And start the video. Let's get it, y'all. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Yes, sir. But yeah, as said, why is the first cigarette of the day the best cigarette of the day?
I'm legitimately wondering, why is the first cigarette of the day the best cigarette of the day? Please tell me.
Well, to me, it honestly really comes down to timing. Most people, if they're smoking cigarettes, they have a cigarette roughly, as long as you're smoking 4 or 5 cigarettes a day kind of thing, minimum, you're typically having a cigarette about every 2, 3, 4 hours kind of thing. But when you're sleeping, that's like 6, 8 hours kind of thing of you're just sleeping and there's no cigarette kind of thing. So your tolerance dies down a little bit. So when you have it in the morning, all of that sort of like...
Now, what Jacob's about to say is absolutely correct. When you go to sleep at night, your nicotine tolerance does drop. And the reason for this is because your body starts to detox. So while you're sleeping, not only is your body going into a state of nicotine detox, but it's also going into a state of nicotine withdrawal. So the cravings start to build up, the withdrawal symptoms start to set in, and you're detoxing. Now, this is actually a really healthy thing for your body to be doing because it's trying to rid your body of all the poison that's just been ingested.
Wanting a cigarette kind of builds up kind of thing. The want of wanting a cigarette kind of builds up into just enjoying it when you actually get it then kind of thing. And then for the rest of the day, it's kind of like just goes back down and then...
Now, what Jacob is describing is actually waking up with a nicotine craving. And he's describing this in a light where he's saying this is something that he enjoys, where that building up of wanting of another cigarette, that building up of wanting more nicotine. Now, for most people, they don't usually enjoy cravings. And I can, looking back, I can say with certainty I did not enjoy cravings. And the reason for that is because I think my brain power was better served in other aspects of my life. How much time do I have to spend thinking about when am I going to get my next hit of nicotine? When am I going to get my next fix of nicotine? For me personally, looking back, this was anything but an enjoyable experience.
All of a sudden, when you go back to sleep, it goes back up and you start enjoying it more again, and then it goes back down the next day. For me, and just even now taking that first hit, I just feel so much better. Like, I feel amazing. I'm like, I was really missing that serotonin this stuff was giving me.
Now, Jacob says that after he takes his first hit, he feels so much better. And the reason for this is because you're actually stopping those withdrawal symptoms from setting in. But this is in fact the cycle of addiction. We use a drug, we then don't use the drug for a period of time. That period of time while we're sleeping, your body starts to detox. It starts to enter a state of nicotine withdrawal. You wake up, you have that cigarette, you have that hit of your vape, and all of a sudden you feel so much better. Therefore, though, it entraps you in this constant loop of withdrawal, relief, withdrawal, relief, withdrawal. This is where the lie of nicotine addiction is. The feeling of relief that you have, the feeling of serotonin that you have, is nothing more than the relief that was created from having your last cigarette. Alan Carr describes it like this. It's like wearing a super tight pair of shoes just to go home and take the shoes off and say, I feel so much relief. Why were you wearing tight shoes in the first place? Doesn't make a lot of sense when you see it for what it actually is. And as for the hit of serotonin that he's talking about, this is something that's really insidious about nicotine addiction. When we smoke cigarettes, chew tobacco, use vapes, our brains get flooded with dopamine and serotonin. And in some cases, to an extent, where your brain will actually stop making its own dopamine and serotonin. So if your brain's not making its own anymore because it's relying on getting it from a drug, you're in essence not going to feel good until you consume that drug again. This is where we see the physical dependence and the physical addiction of cigarettes actually setting in. That's what he's talking about.
But to me, I think it's because I said the tolerance with the nicotine, of course, and it's also because it's a routine for me. The reason the first cigarette of the day is so good, another reason why the first cigarette of the day is so good in my personal opinion, is because I'm a very routine-based person. I've talked about routine before, and I love routine kind of thing. I'm a very routine-based person. For an entire week last year, I ate just fried rice every single day for lunch.
Now, what Jacob's talking about is super important because when people are trying to quit vaping, trying to quit smoking, oftentimes they say, hey, this is a habit for me. It's part of my daily routine. And one of the things here at Addiction Mindset Recovery Coaching that we encourage people to do when they're quitting nicotine or quitting any substance for that matter is we talk about the development of a new routine. And guys, in the video description below, I've put a link for a video called A Routine to Beat Nicotine. It's so important, in my opinion, that when you're quitting smoking or quitting vaping, that you start to implement a new routine in place. And here at our offices, we emphasize to people, let's make that routine focused around your goals. Let's make that routine focused around your health, mentally and physically. Let's make a routine that's going to be beneficial for you in the long run. The exact opposite of nicotine addiction. Something that's killing you, it's impossible to find joy in that. And that's why nicotine addiction is so insidious. It's very, very hard to truly enjoy something that's in essence killing you.
And I think that's really one of the reasons why I enjoy morning cigarettes and the first cigarette of the day so much. Morning cigarettes are really nice, but I've been waking up late lately because it's summer and I've been extremely lazy. So now I can't really say anything about morning cigarettes right now, but the first cigarette of the day at least is absolutely amazing. Just simply because, well, your tolerance is a little bit lower. I always get buzzed on the first cigarette of the day and never again.
Now, this may not be the case for Jacob Jones, but I argue that that morning buzz from the first cigarette is an extremely dangerous buzz because when you wake up in the morning, in theory, you should have a set of things that you want to go accomplish. And those things should give you a drip of dopamine each time you hit each of those little micro goals throughout the day. But if I wake up and my first activity is jerking off, smoking a cigarette, or getting high, I suddenly am rewarding my brain with dopamine. And now, for many people, once they're stuck in active addiction, instead of going on and pursuing other things throughout the day, my brain is saying, hey, Frank, I'm already satisfied. That was a lot easier than you waking up and working on your business. That was a lot easier than you waking up and going to the gym. So I think that morning buzz is actually one of the most dangerous things because in my opinion, and I found this personally, over time, it started to take away from things in life that actually motivated me, from things in life that I actually wanted to accomplish. Because if you're giving your brain that reward in the first 5 minutes of waking up, what's the point in going out and grinding and working for all that other stuff? Because your brain is going to say, wait a minute, I don't want to put in the hard work. I don't want to put in the effort when I can just get such an instant source of gratification from a hit of nicotine, from a hit of weed, from watching adult media content, whatever the addiction may be. Now, I'm definitely not saying that's the case with Jacob Jones, but just throwing it out there.
During the entire day. And the routine of just waking up, eating breakfast, and having a cigarette is so nice. I ate breakfast a little bit ago. I had some donuts and some chicken nuggets. It was leftovers. I usually would not eat that for breakfast. That's not a very healthy breakfast in any way, shape, or form. But
once you determine in your mind that you want to quit, and if you find that you're struggling to quit, this actually becomes the worst feeling in the world. You wake up and you're feeling good and you're saying, okay, I'm going to go take on the day. But you're then like, oh, I can't go do anything until I have a cigarette, until I hit my vape, until I chew tobacco. And being forced, physically feeling forced to do something that you no longer want to be doing anymore becomes, in my opinion, one of the worst feelings in the world. And this is one of the most defeated feelings that I think most people like myself who have struggled with active addiction will face. And again, not saying that's the case with this guy.
then I got up and I drove my car, and I'm at a park right now, and I'm enjoying a cigarette with y'all. And this routine of eating breakfast, and literally I came straight to the park. I literally came straight here because I can't record it at home right now. And it's one of those things where I'm just kind of like, man, this routine is amazing, and the buzz and the enjoyment of it is absolutely amazing.
So this is kind of just a thought that I have. And I don't know for sure, but I think waking up, eating breakfast, getting in your car, going outside, enjoying nature, working on a YouTube video for your fan base that you know people are going to enjoy watching, I don't think that needs to be enhanced by a cigarette. Now, unless you're making a channel revolved around cigarette reviews like Jacob Jones is doing. But in general, I want you guys to think about these things. A lot of people will say like, oh, a big meal, I like having a cigarette after. That feeling is amazing. Oh, after intercourse, the feeling of a cigarette after is amazing. That's not necessarily true. Intercourse feels good. Going to a park, enjoying nature, and working on something you love, something that you're passionate about, making YouTube videos, that's already an enjoyable experience. I don't think that's something that you need to enhance with nicotine. If anything, I would argue long term, nicotine puts all of those things at risk. And slowly over time, what a lot of people find is they go to do those things, but if they can't follow it up with nicotine or have nicotine prior to those activities, a lot of those activities over time actually lose their sense of pleasure and enjoyment. Because nicotine robs us of joy. Nicotine robs us of pleasure because, again, if we're addicted for an extended period of time, your brain is actually going to start making less serotonin and less dopamine. And then you're not going to find joy in anything in life unless you have that drug or unless you quit for an extended period of time.
And wanting a cigarette, because I wake up and I don't really want a cigarette. I'll be completely honest with you. I don't wake up and the first thing I think is cigarette, which I'm very happy with. I would actually be a little bit troubled if the first thing I woke up and I just wanted a cigarette immediately. I'd be kind of worried.
There's something else really interesting here that's happening in a lot of Jacob's videos, and this is just kind of like my psychology-based assessment, but I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist. A lot of people who are addicted to nicotine will brag, in a sense, it's like a humble brag. Oh, I only smoke 3 times a day. I only have 4 cigarettes a day. I don't really wake up necessarily craving a cigarette, although he did just talk about earlier how he enjoys waking up craving a cigarette, saying that it's on his mind all day and that he feels good about that. But now he's also saying, wait a second, I would be nervous if that was the case. So he's kind of contradicting himself here a little bit. But what I was getting at was a lot of people who are addicted will brag about how little they smoke, about how little they use cigarettes, how little they vape. This is a really weird way in which addiction will try and justify its use to the consumer. So we know that this is bad. We know this is something that we shouldn't be doing. So what I would say is happening here is that Jacob is actually being manipulated quite cunningly by that addicted voice in his brain. And I can say this with confidence because I was no different. I used to say, oh, I only chew tobacco twice a day and hit my vape, at night or in the afternoon. And I would kind of brag about this. Why would we want to brag about something? If it was something we truly enjoyed, if it was something that we were truly proud of, something that we really found pleasure in, we would want to partake in that thing all the time. We wouldn't be trying to limit it throughout the day. That's just my take.
But it's one of those things where I'm really glad that I don't have to think about cigarettes all the time, but yet it's still a routine kind of thing. And I think that's really why the first cigarette of the day is so good, because it's a routine, but I don't feel like I'm forced to do it. But when I do it, it's like the best cigarette ever because I actually get buzzed. Because, well, I'm sure if I was smoking 20 cigarettes a day, I wouldn't get buzzed. But since I'm only smoking 4 cigarettes a day, I'm getting buzzed. So it's really nice.
You know, it's interesting. He said he doesn't feel like he's forced to do it, but he made a video a while back where he quit cigarettes for 3 days, and he said it was hard. He said it was easier than he expected. He had to do it for, I think he had a root canal, but he said it was hard. So I'm just concerned that perhaps he's, I don't know, is that experience kind of in the back of his mind? Did he put that experience aside? Because he actually at one point described this as challenging, not having that first cigarette. So I don't know.
You know what I'm saying? This Chesterfield Red, though, has been absolutely fantastic. But yeah, that's pretty much my personal opinion on why the first cigarette of the day is the best one. It's literally just because, well, as said, it's literally just because, well, routine, and you have not having a cigarette for a while, so the enjoyment and the relaxation, like the instant relief of having a cigarette is just so nice, and it is getting a little bit breezy.
The instant relief of not having a cigarette is one of the most misleading things about nicotine addiction, as we discussed earlier. I think one of the best feelings in the world is waking up and being free from this cycle, being free from the facade of nicotine addiction. I think, in my opinion, one of the best feelings in the world is waking up and being able to get right to whatever it is I need to get through to without having to worry about nicotine. Nicotine consumed a large portion of my time, a large portion of my energy, mentally and physically. And I think one of the best feelings in the world is being able to wake up and say, wow, I feel good without that. I feel energized without that. Because eventually, for most people who are addicted to nicotine, this cycle that he's describing, this process that he's describing, it is exhausting. Physically and mentally exhausting, constantly putting your body through a state of withdrawal and detox, withdrawal and detox. It is a mind game, and it just wears on people over the years, over time. And I'd be concerned that he's falling for the same trap that I once fell for, and that a lot of you guys watching my channel have also fallen for. Let me know your guys' comments down below. Do you guys agree with Jacob? Do you guys agree with me? As Jacob always says, I love discussion about this stuff, and I love hearing what you guys have to say. Why don't you follow me into the next video where I talk about a routine to beat nicotine? I'll see you guys there.